Hello, this is Jason with the CloudPass virtual group. Today's presentation is Data Here, There, and Everywhere, and our presenter is Jessica Jolly. Before I get started, I just have a few announcements. And starting off with, we've got a number of upcoming sessions over the next few weeks. If you are looking to learn more about cloud and Azure and data tied up within there, we've got a lot of different sessions that are coming up, and I encourage you to take a look at the list and check some of these out. Our schedule currently only goes until the middle of September, October. So if you are interested in presenting, we are always looking for new presenters. You can reach out to me at cloud@pass.org to present, or alternatively, you can go out to cloud.pass.org and click on the link for the call for speakers and fill out a Google form that allows you to then just submit your information. Coming up this fall is PASS Summit 2019. As part of PASS Summit 2019, there's the new learning pathways. These learning pathways are curated 75-minute general sessions that allow you to go from a start of a topic all the way through to a master level of it. So you can kind of learn all the way throughout the week on different areas of technology. You can find more information about this out at PASS Summit 2019 under the Learning Pathways link. If you haven't registered yet for PASS Summit 2019 and you are planning to register, I do encourage you to go out and use our registration code. The registration code gets you $150 off of your registration, so you pay a little bit less and get that much more out of the PASS Summit. This virtual group is one of a number of virtual groups that PASS has put together for the community. These virtual groups do focus on different areas. Some of them, like ourselves, focus on specific technology areas like the cloud. Others focus on job roles like data science, and yet others do focus on language to help people that are not native English speakers learn as well. So there's global Chinese, global Spanish, lots of opportunity out there to continue to learn about data platforms. Throughout this session, you may have some questions. If you do, please type them into the questions panel, and then at the end of the session, we will answer all of those questions. And with this, we are ready to pass things over to Jessica. So our presenter today is Jessica Jolly with her presentation, Data Here, There, and Everywhere.
All right, well, welcome everybody to this presentation called Data Here, There, and Everywhere. My name is Jessica Jolly, and I run my own little small business called AltEnter, LLC. And I started on this journey about 3.5 years ago, and part of the first steps that I took was to get my Microsoft Certified Trainer certification. Since then, I've also collected an MCSE in the data analytics space. So essentially those two certifications mean that I just have to take exams on a regular basis. This is me right here. So I'm an owner of AltEnter, and as I said, I'm a Microsoft Certified Trainer, and I have that MCSE in Data Analytics, as well as presenting on the Power Platform, World Tour, SQL Saturday, and other venues. I'm also active on the Power BI User Group platform, and I live in Chicago, and I love to swim in the summer and knit all year round. Okay, normally if this was an interactive session, I would say please ask your questions. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be interactive, so I'm going to skip over this slide. So the intention of this presentation is to tell you about geographic data inside of Power BI. And this is not going to be all about geographic data, and I'm not going to just present slides. We will actually go into the tool. But what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about some of the things you can do to prepare your data. First of all, what is geographic data? So a recognized geographic entity is something like a country or a city or a county or a state or a province or a zip code. Something that is not considered geographic data is anything that isn't going to be a recognized category. So for example, a region per se is not going to be a recognized category, nor will local place names or neighborhood names. To prep your data for success, and don't worry, I will show you how to do this in a few minutes, what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that your zip code column in the Power Query Editor, you're going to pad it so that it has the leading zeros, because otherwise it will curtail, it will cut off those leading zeros. And you want to make sure to change the column to a text format. Once you're in the Power BI desktop, you want to categorize your geographic fields and make sure that you have them chosen as selected as don't summarize, as well as concatenating your address fields together if you want to use them in a location field. And again, some of this will make more sense in a few minutes. Some other keys to success. Always use latitude and longitude if you can. In the location field, you can stack geographic fields for greater accuracy. So again, you're always going to get more accurate data if you go, for example, country, state, and then city. And also, do not have multiple values in a geographic column or in a field. So what I mean by that is don't stack, say, Chicago, Illinois. Always break them out and have a city field and have a state field and then have a country field. Okay, so with that preparation, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to escape out of this, and give me 1 second while I get to my Power BI. There we go. Hold on. I want to open up my Power BI. And I'm going to start from an existing file because I think it's easier for you to see what's possible with an existing file. Hang on. Now I'm starting from a blank one here, but what I want to do is go ahead and open up a simple one here. So I downloaded the data for the emergency centers in the United States. It's a nice geographic set of data. And I'm going to start by showcasing the ArcGIS capabilities in this, just because ArcGIS is a great map option. I will be showing the other map options as well. So the base data that we're looking at here, let me go ahead and open that up in the data view so you can see what the base data looks like. Sorry about that. Cortana's talking in the background. Sorry about that. And so what we're looking at right here is you see that I've got the name of the emergency center, and then I have the address, and I have a second address field here, as well as if I scroll over, I've got a city, and I've got a state, and I've got a zip, and I have a county. So again, I have some basic geographic information, which is really why I chose this file. It's easy to understand, and it's easy to compute when you're looking at a graph. It's also not a multi-table data set. It's a very simple data set. So if I go back here, the ArcGIS option allows me to map data, and sorry, I keep trying to tell it to remove the files. There we go. So what I've got set up here is on the left-hand side, I put in a slicer, and in that slicer, I added the states. So when I select on the slicer right over here on the left-hand side, you can see over on the right-hand side in the field wells that I have the state field dropped in here, and that means that I can easily select a state that I want to focus on. So right now I want to make sure I've got all of them selected, not just one of them. So it takes a minute there. Okay. And now if I want to just select a single one, I'll just unselect everything and I'll pick my home state, which is Illinois. And what I've got going on right now is I've got a map that is color-coded based on the number of emergency centers in the state. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to click on the ArcGIS graphic right here. So again, I've got the map selected, and I'm going to go to the formatting tool over here on the right-hand side. So I'm in the visualizations pane, and I'm going to click on the format tool, and I'm going to be able to see different formatting options that I have available. But that's not actually where I want it to go. I want to go back to the field well. This is where I want it to be. And notice that I have color the color of the state is going to be determined by the number of centers. So the number of centers is this field right here. I'm counting the unique ID of each center, and I renamed it over here because when I hover over the state, I want to be able to see in my tooltip a user-friendly name. So I've got number of centers is 132 in Illinois. If I were to use number of centers as the determinant for size, that wouldn't make as much sense in this type of map simply because it's a filled map. So what I mean by that is, let's go back and select all of the states. The color intensity here is what tells you how many, relatively speaking, how many centers they have. So if I hover over Texas, you'll see that I've got 425 centers. If I hover over California, I've got 225. If I hover over Illinois, I have 132. But by contrast, if I hover over Alaska, I have 13. So again, this is a very basic ArcGIS map, and I'm using a very simple state field. And hold on, I'm still selected on my slicer, so let me select on my ArcGIS map. And I'm using the state field in here, and I'm allowing the number of emergency centers in each state to drive the color intensity for each state. Now, let's take another look at a different version of an ArcGIS map, and I'm going to tab over to the next tab here. And I just want to give you that exact same experience, but I want to give it to you first of all using longitude and latitude. So I'm using a different piece of functionality here. I still have my slicers over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to click on this ArcGIS map, so I've selected on that. And now I'll notice over here in my field wells, I have latitude and longitude. So if you look at the base data, so I'll go back over here to my data view, and I'll show you the base data here. Again, if you look all the way to the right, I have longitude and latitude in here. It is always preferable to use longitude and latitude if you have it. So for obvious reasons, it's much more specific, and you can really pinpoint. Now, this is kind of messy here because I'm getting a point for each emergency center. What I'm allowing to be the driver is the size of the total staff that they have. Now, one thing to note is that I did take and add staff numbers to this just because there weren't any available. So again, this is not necessarily truly representative. But let me unselect all these and go ahead and pick Illinois again, just for fun. And now you can see what it looks like when it is blown up. And each one of these guys, if I hover over it, gives me my latitude and my longitude and the total staff. And the size of the bubble is determined by the total staff. And the positioning of this is determined by the latitude and longitude. So again, always try to use the latitude and longitude if you can. It's more accurate. And if you're using the size feature, you're going to be using a numeric value here of some kind. Okay, whether it's an average or it's a count or something like that. So again, if I click on the size field, I can do averages, counts, and so on. In this case, I'm just adding up the total number of staff. All right, now let's move ahead, and I want to actually show you how to add an ArcGIS map because that's quite easy to do. I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus sign here down at the bottom, and I'm just going to add another page, and I'm going to come up to my visualizations right here. So I'm over on the right hand side, and I'm going to hover over the little globe that says ArcGIS Maps for Power BI. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to create a blank visual for me. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simply recreate what I've been showing you here. So I'm going to drag the latitude field in here. So the latitude is over here on the right hand side. Drag the longitude field in here. And so essentially I have the base map now, and I can now, because it is an ArcGIS map, I can come in and add some things to it. So first of all, let's look at some of the symbols up here in the upper left-hand corner. So I've got this plus and minus, which is the zoom in. I've also got this little yellow thing, which is your sign in for enhanced functionality. So if you choose to, you can subscribe to an ESRI Plus subscription through Power BI. It's $5 a month, and it does give you additional enhancements. Right now, I don't have it signed in just so that you can see what it'll look like if it's something that you want to use right out of the box. To access some of the base features that are available to everybody, once you have an ArcGIS map, you come over to the right-hand side and you click on the 3 ellipses right here at the top where it says More Options, and you'll find this Edit. So this is unique, as far as I know, to ArcGIS. So this is something you'd have to sort of remember to do. Come up to your Edit, and now you're going to see some other options appear here. So first of all, over on the left-hand side, I have a base map option. So if I click on my base map, I have several that come in that are available to me without a Plus subscription. So these are things that you can access without having any additional payments. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick streets instead. Okay, because it might be nice. I might be interested to see where these emergency centers are actually located. And again, I've got several options here. Let's look at the map theme. So the map theme, there are 3 that you get right out of the box. So you can have a location only, which is what we're showing now. You can have a heat map, and you can have clustering. Okay, so again, I've got location only simply because that makes the most sense here in this context. And if I hover over the little eye, it does give you a little explanation about that. Symbol style allows you to change the symbols that are associated with each one of the points on the map. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm actually going to filter this. I don't have a slicer on this page, so I'm going to come over here to my right-hand side, and I'm going to click on Filters, and I'm going to drag the state field in here so that I can filter on the state field while I'm at it. So there's my state field. I'm going to drag that puppy in there. There we go. And now I can filter. So let's just go ahead and filter on California. Let's change it up. All right, so now I can see the emergency centers in California. I can click on the plus sign, and I can change the shapes, okay, that are available to me, or how I'm displaying this. So if I wanted this to be a diamond instead of a circle, I could do that. I can increase their sizes, or I can decrease their sizes depending on, again, the effect I'm trying to accomplish. And I can change the fill color. So let's say I want it to be this nice dark gray, and so on. So you get the idea here. So I have the ability to modify these shapes here. And I also can make the layers underneath or above more or less transparent here. That doesn't have too much of an effect in this case. It does, if I wanted to layer something in above these, I could back these off and make them more transparent, but I'm going to just leave them as they are. I'm going to click the close sign here. Pins are really useful because what I can do is I can say pin a particular location, and then I can see the emergency centers in relationship to a location. So let's just search for something that's well known. So I've forgotten what the Los Angeles airport is called, but let's go in and look for this international airport. That was pretty innovative. Okay, so now I've zoomed in here, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. And that way, I now have a recognizable landmark, and I can also see my emergency centers in position and as related to that particular landmark. And of course, I can add lots of other landmarks here if I wanted to. I just chose airport because that seemed like it made the most sense. But you can add multiple pins here. Let's see, I'll just choose something else. Let's choose the Getty Museum. I'm going to assume that's what that is. So there we go. So there's the Getty Center. And again, I can change the colors of the pins if I need to. So think of this in relationship to, let's say, your offices. If you wanted to pin your offices on a location, and then you wanted to be able to identify stores that you sell to, for example. This would be a great use case for that. Drive time allows you to compute drive time from a selected location. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here, and I'm going to pick this Culver City, and I'm going to choose, just for a laugh, I'll choose 15 minutes. Now we are in California, so now it's going to compute, and it's going to show you what it can, what you can drive to from that particular emergency center within 15 minutes of drive time. Okay, so again, you can use this for different pinpoints. Great use case for this would be delivery times, sales rep territories, those kinds of things. Okay, I just removed that. Reference layers are fascinating. So without having the Plus subscription, you get a really nice base layer of reference information. So let's say I'm interested in the average household income. I can go ahead and click Add, and now I've got this color coding, okay, based, and I also have, I continue to have my symbols. However, now you can see that I probably need to change this color because they're not very obvious here. So let's see if we change that, what happens here. All right, I'm going to close that up, and and now if I click on these, so I still got my symbols in here, but they're so tiny that I need to make them bigger so I can see. But notice that I'm able to select in any particular one of these blocks, and it's going to give me some information about that. So again, incredibly valuable if you're looking for customer demographics, that kind of thing. And this is all based on publicly available data. I'm going to go back and make my symbols a little bigger because we need to be able to see them a little better than that. Now they're a little bigger, so we can see them a little better. So again, I can have a reference layer here, and I can be able to see in relationship to whatever it is I'm mapping what the underlying data is that's available. So again, if I come here and just look at all the different things that I've got just without even having the Plus subscription here. And finally, if I click over here and I go to ArcGIS, you can also search and find things that other people have put in here. I'm just going to randomly search for something, and let's see what I get. Let's do landmarks. See if I get anything. This is what people have created, so it will really depend on what's been created. So again, look at that. I've got Denver historic landmark districts. I've got a lot of different funky things in here, so it's always worth looking at. All right, the last and final thing I want to make sure you see is infographics. This adds little cards onto your screen. So if you are interested in total population for the area that you're looking at, or you're interested in the age breakout, or you're interested in the income breakout, again, all of this is available through the census data. So let's just go ahead and add total population. What that does is that adds a little card here. And as you zoom in or out, that number right here is going to adjust based on the frame of reference that it's looking at. So again, it's incredibly versatile. Alrighty. Now that's an ESRI map. I want to use a different set of data to show you some other mapping techniques. So bear with me while I open that up. Okay, and where is my, let's go down and look at our data right here. Hang on one second, there we go. So again, I'm using a base set of data that's available from Microsoft. This is not any kind of real data. Unlike the emergency centers, which is public data, this is data that Microsoft has created. It's fake data. but I want to make sure you can see another set and a few other examples of maps. ArcGIS happens to be my favorite, but that doesn't mean that it has to be yours too. Okay, so first thing I want to show you is the data set I'm using, just so you're familiar. Now this, unlike the data set previously, is multi-table, so there are multiple tables here. It's a data set called Northwind. So I'm going to click over to my data view just so you can see here. And let's look at order details, and let's look at orders. Okay, so you can see here that I've got ship address over here on the right-hand side, city, country, and so on. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that you see how to categorize data, because I did mention that in the presentation, and it is an important step. So I'm going to come up to some other data that I have, and I'll categorize that just so you can see what it looks like. Okay, hold on. I'm going to come in and I'm going to find one that I haven't categorized. Okay, here's some data. So here's a zip code field. I'm not actually mapping this, but I can use it to show you how to categorize the data. So I'm going to select on the postal code, okay, and I'm going to go up to modeling. I'm in the Power BI desktop right now. And in the middle of the modeling tab where it says data category, I'm going to come here and I'm going to come down to postal code. Now be careful because, for example, if you have your zip code or postal code formatted incorrectly, you will not get this option. So you always want to make sure that it's formatted properly. And the way to tell that is if you come up to this and you can't format it as a postal code, go back and change it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on postal code, and now that adds that little globe symbol. So you can see that as soon as I add the categorization to this, it will tell Power BI that is a geographic piece of data. I'm going to do the same thing to country so you can see it again. I'm selecting country. I'm coming up to data category, and I'm clicking, there we go, and I'm going to hit country right here. And also notice that I'm going to say don't summarize, okay, because again, I don't need it to sum this, and I don't need it to average it. I just need it to know that it is not an aggregatable field by itself. I'm going to go ahead and click on address and do the same thing. So again, one of your first steps should always be to categorize your geographic data. It can and will recognize data without that. However, it won't be as reliable. All right, so now I've shown you how to do that. So what I'd like you to see is some of the different kinds of maps. So the map over here on the left-hand side, the one that I've selected on, is a filled map. That's the one that's available in the visualization panel over here on the right-hand side. And what it does is it fills an area based on whether there was presence of shipping. So what I've done here in this one is all I've said is location is ship country, okay, and I just am having it tell me if there is a customer in that country by putting in the tooltips over here. So again, all this map is really doing here is indicating that there is a customer in that country. That's not actually a super useful map, but that's all right. We'll move on to more useful types, but I just wanted to start with sort of the basic. You can see down here in the bottom it says Bing, and it's using the Bing search service here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the formatting options here, just because it's always good to check the formatting options. So notice that I've got some data colors, and I can change the colors based on the country. So for example, if I want to highlight my large countries in red, I can do that. Okay, so again, always it's a good practice to come in here and check what your formatting options are in any visual. Notice I've got map controls here where I can turn zooming on or off and auto zoom on or off. Map styles, again, I'm going to be able to do a dark or a light or a grayscale. Let's do dark just for fun. And of course, title and background and some of those basic ones there. So again, always check to see what kinds of options you have for any visual. All right, let's move on to another visual type on the right-hand side. This is one that I actually imported. It's a globe map, and it's in the Custom Visuals menu, which if you're not familiar with that, that's in this 3 dots right here. If I come and I click on that and import from the marketplace, and I search on maps, I'll be able to find several different types of maps. I did not bring in all of them by any means. But there are multiple types of maps listed here. And let's see, come on, there we go. So you can see there's lots of different maps listed in here. Again, I did not bring in all of them by any means. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. So what this does is this gives you almost a 3D effect, and you can turn the globe, and you can zoom in and you can zoom out and so on. So again, what this is doing is this is saying, okay, for every place that we've shipped, every city, count the number of order IDs that we shipped to that city. So again, I could also be using latitude and longitude, always preferable if you're trying to get exact locations. But if I don't care about exact locations and I just kind of want to get an overall view, that's kind of an interesting one. And of course I have a heat intensity one right here. It doesn't really make much sense. Let's try. Let's see what happens if I do count of order ID in here again, and let's see what we get. Oh, we get a little circle underneath that. And I'm trying this. Oh, you know what? Let me change the zoom on this because I did not change the zoom. Hold on. Let's see what happens. Hold on a second. Nope. And you can see I'm just playing with this here to see. It doesn't seem to give me a whole lot of zoom options here. So again, every one of these is going to be slightly different. You may have to play with them to see which one is best for your purposes. Again, this was an imported custom visual. It's nice because it's got that globe effect there. Okay, I want to show you a pure classic Bing map. So I'm going to come down to the next tab that says Bing map. And this map is, I'll click on it. That is this map right over here in the visualizations list on the 3rd row, and you click on the globe there and you'll get the Bing map. Typically, if you're just getting started, this might be the map that you choose. Again, I'm graphing pretty much the same data so you can see what things look like. So I'm using the ship city here. I could alternatively use the longitude and latitude. I don't have a legend here. I could put in a legend if I wanted to. I'm using total sales now to compute the size of the bubble. So the size of the bubble here is being driven by the total sales. So again, these are really, and I notice as I hover over my bubbles, I'm getting these very funky long numbers. So I think what I'll do is I'll come down and find total sales down here, and I'm going to fix that. So I'm just going to do a currency format just so it's a little nicer looking, because that's annoying, and I definitely do not need any decimal places. And now let's see if that looks any better. Yep, that looks much better. So again, I'm using total sales to drive the size of the bubbles. I wouldn't have to do that, okay? I could use another number to drive the size of the bubbles, but again, that's what's driving that. Let's go ahead and take a look at our formatting options that we have. So I have data colors here. So again, I can change the data colors. I can put on data labels. Okay, not necessarily the best thing I want to see, but again, I might have a need for that. Okay, so again, always good to check out the options that you've got. Okay, and I can control the sizes of my bubbles. Again, this is very similar to ArcGIS where you can get them down to pinpoint size. And I have map controls. So notice I've got some zoom buttons. Let's turn those back on here so I can see those here. Okay, there's my zoom buttons up here. Once again, you've got your map styles. I could turn on a heat map right here. So again, if I didn't want to see them as concentric circle or pinpoint circles, I could turn on a heat map if that was appropriate for the data that I have. So that's just a plain old Bing map, and you already have a lot of options here. Let's just do one that we haven't done. Let's do grayscale just for fun. There we go. So again, lots of ways to use the baked in default mapping options in the tools in order to create very cool maps here. Now let's move on to a custom visual heat map. I'm going to switch over to the next tab here. And this is an imported heat map from the Visual Marketplace. So again, if you don't know where the Visual Marketplace is, you come right out to these three dots. And this one is called the heat map. And again, all I'm doing is I'm locating by city, and then I'm using the value, the total sales amount to drive the heat map differences. Let's look at the formatting options here. So again, lots of different kinds of things here. So I could do contour instead of heat. Okay, I can change the radius of these things, make them smaller or bigger. I can change the opacity. I can even change in this one what the aggregation behavior is. So if I wanted to do average, I could do average, and that didn't change the data that much. Highest didn't change it that much, but again, you get the idea. You can change these things. The contour, okay, so again, I can play around and see what it looks like when I change the contour. Again, not everything is going to change for every single map choice you make, so you'll want to play with that and determine what's appropriate for your data. Okay, map controls. Okay, let's once again, these all seem to have a pattern here. You can tell that they seem to have the same basic controls here. You could change the language, it looks like. That's kind of interesting. Let's change it to Korean just for fun. Okay, again, that's something new that I haven't tried. Map elements. You can have your road gray with label. You can turn on and show forests and so on. So you get the idea. All I'm doing here is I am fiddling around with some of the choices just to see what we get with each different type of visual. So again, this one was an imported visual from the Visual Marketplace. It's a heat map. And now what I want to do is I want to turn the corner and come back around and look at the ESRI again. But what I'd like to do now is show you what the ESRI can do if you have a Plus membership associated. Okay, so that's my next step here. And let's go ahead and get signed in. So the way you create a Plus membership is that you, through Power BI, you sign up for the subscription, and then it is exactly matched to your Power BI login. So now I've gone ahead and signed in, and you can see if I hover over the Plus subscription, I have my name here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to my three dots, and I'm going to click on Edit, because that's where you're going to see most of the changes. So I'm going to come over to my base map now, and you're going to see I've got more options. So anything that has the little plus sign here indicates something that you see with a Plus membership. So if you don't have a need for any of these, then that makes sense. You don't need it, okay? But if you are someone who does need to use a lot of maps and you want to have a wide variety of base maps, a Plus subscription might do the trick for you. We can go ahead and change this to imagery. I've never used that. Let's see what happens. Okay, alrighty. Now let's look at location type. Okay, so here I can choose between points and boundaries, okay? So depending on the kind of data that you're mapping, you may want to be able to show boundaries of the data rather than pinpointing it. In this case, what I'm using is probably better suited as a point, but let's change it to a boundary just to see what happens. And I'm going to say locations are in many countries, and location type is world countries, and let's go ahead and choose exact match. And let's see what's happening here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it failed to locate 66 features here, which doesn't surprise me because I haven't vetted this data at all. So again, that may be something that you want to play around with. I'm going to go ahead and switch it back to points because that does suit this data much better. Map themes. Once again, you have your location, your heat map, your size. Now you get to get the size, color, size and color, and clustering. So again, you get more options here with a Plus subscription. Symbol style. I don't know, that may be, yes. So symbol style, you do get some options in terms of deciding how the symbol colors break out. So if you are using color as a differentiator, you do get to be able to use that here. So you can see right here that this is the differentiator for total sales, and the color breaks. So that's something that you actually get more control over in the ArcGIS environment with the Plus subscription. Pins, I don't think there's any difference there. Drive time, I don't think there's any difference there. Reference layer, you're going to get more. No, it doesn't look like you get any more there. Oh, yes, you do right here. So you can look for your publicly available ArcGIS layers. You also have this thing called a living atlas. So again, I have not played with this, but it looks like there's lots of things in here. Colleges and universities, coastal tribal lands, US EPA regions. So again, lots of information here that you can get access to if you are a Plus subscriber. And infographics, you get your world demographics right there. So again, you can bring in the demographics for France and so on. So anytime you see this plus symbol, tells you that there are more options that's only Plus subscribers get that. All right, to wrap this up, what I would like to do is show you the time element that you also get with an ArcGIS Plus subscription. So if you notice here, I'm going to make sure my ArcGIS map is selected, okay, which it is, but I always like to check. Notice that I've got this time component down here. So I dropped the order date into this field. So again, it's just a very simple date. I'll go over to the date section here, and I'll go to orders down here. And there's order date right there. Okay, it's just a simple date. There's nothing special about order date. Okay, so again, now I'll go back over to my visual, and I dropped order date into the time field, and what it does is it gives me a way to see the data animated. So I'm going to just drop this timeline down here at the bottom, and I'm going to click the play button. And now the data is actually going to change based on the dates that are associated with each order. So if you are trying to track information over time and map it over time, this is an incredibly rich feature that you're going to want to look at. You can also do time. I don't have the data organized by time here, but you could also be doing time. I've got to stop it now. Okay, so I can click just manually through and look at this and look at these times, these dates and times. But think about the power of that kind of information if you're presenting to somebody who's interested in how things unfold over time. So once again, ArcGIS just offers a lot of native capabilities, but it also offers a tremendous amount of enrichments for $5 a month. And again, I have no affiliation with ESRI, so. Okay, well that is a very quick overview of geographical data. Again, what I'd like to do is just end by summarizing some of the lessons or some of the key points. I'll just go back to my PowerPoint for that, just to review those. what is geographic data? So anything that's a recognized geographic entity. And prepping your data for success is critical, making sure your zip code is padded so it doesn't drop the leading zeros. And make sure to categorize your geographic fields. If you want to use addresses in the location fields that some maps provide, then you definitely are going to want to concatenate the entire address field. And so I would create a new column with an entirely concatenated address field together for that. But make sure you've got base columns with city, state, zip intact. And then, of course, always using longitude and latitude if you can. In your location fields, you can stack the geographic fields for greater accuracy if you don't want to concatenate. And in your base fields, you don't want to have Chicago, Illinois, for example. In a city field, you don't want it to say Chicago, comma, Illinois. Alrighty, well, I think that's about it. So I know there's not going to be any questions because this is a recording, but thank you very much for watching.
All right, thanks, Jessica. This is Jason again.
It went a little short just because I normally allow time for questions. So
yeah, and we did actually have a few people that have joined in throughout. They're probably wondering why did this start early. For those of you that are on there that are wondering, basically I screwed up on the timing on this, and I had it initially scheduled for to start in a couple minutes, and it was with discussions with Jessica, it was we were aimed to start an hour earlier, and then when I updated the time, I updated it to an hour later. So I'm going to download this tonight and add everything in and make sure that it gets posted. So for all of you that are on there that are questioning, why is this appear to be done already, that's basically why. So thank you everyone for coming today. Apologies for anyone that kind of missed out. You will be able to see it very shortly. And thank you, Jessica, for being available for doing this. This was excellent. I haven't had a chance to play with that data